Hello, everyone. My name is Allie Johnson, and I will be moderating today's webinar. I'll begin by introducing the Capital Pathways program, introduce myself, and then pass the mic to our lovely guest speaker, Jamie Dion, who is our QuickBooks Pro advisor. She'll introduce herself and take us through a presentation on setting up QuickBooks for your business. Please feel free to ask questions using the chat function. We'll respond to them as we go along. And for any questions that we don't get to today, we're happy to address through our no-cost one-on-one services or connect you to resources that can help. I'll share a recording of this webinar and slides as part of a follow-up email. So, what is the Capital Pathways program? It is a program funded by the U.S. Treasury SSBCI initiative, sponsored by the Virginia Department of Small Business and Supplier Diversity, and hosted by the Virginia SBDC and George Mason University. We'll start with a program overview, then go through eligibility, and finish up with an outline of the services we offer. Capital Pathways is a no-cost, specialized SBDC program that helps small businesses build the systems and habits needed to become capital ready. This matters because businesses that are less prepared can often self-select out or fail their loan application, and these early failures correlate to a lack of adequate capital. Additionally, higher cost alternatives often don't build long-term capacity, and ultimately only half of the loan amounts requested actually reach small businesses. So to put things in perspective, about 25% of small businesses need access to financing for growth and preserving cash flow. However, just 20 to 30% of those who apply actually get their loans approved. To help address this challenge, Capital Pathways creates a path to financial and legal readiness. Our program offers an immersive, hands-on group experience paired with one-on-one support. Who's eligible, you may ask? Very small businesses and nonprofits at any stage who face challenges accessing traditional financing. The services we provide include a guided self-assessment, legal structure validation, financial skills and tools, loan application readiness, and credit building advising. We start our process with a self-assessment that pinpoints your business's key gaps so we can connect you with tailored resources, either through our program or through other resources that can help. Under our legal structure validation, our in-house advisors can help you through basic questions, and we partner with a law firm to help with the more complex topics related to business registration, trademarks, and contracts and agreement reviews. We also offer financial webinars on topics including financial basics, financial statement preparation, and of course, QuickBooks training. Our one-on-one tailored support covers business foundations, profitability and pricing, financial forecasting, financing options and readiness, financial statements and tools, and finally, loan readiness and lender preparation. These loan readiness services include both webinars and one-on-one individualized support. The webinars I mentioned cover topics such as what lenders look for in loan applications, as well as interactive mock loan interviews, SBA loan options, and sample application analyses. We also partner with a lender who can provide one-on-one support to those looking for capital. Finally, our credit building advisor will help you review and interpret your credit reports as part of building an individualized credit improvement plan to strengthen your credit and help you qualify for better financing options and terms. If you're interested in getting started, you can reach out through our website at thevirginiasbdc.org/programs/capital-pathways, or you can contact me directly at ajohn216@gmu.edu. I'll share my email and our website link in the chat so you all have it. Now over to introductions. As mentioned before, my name is Allie Johnson, and I'm today's moderator, and I serve as the Program and Intake Coordinator for the Capital Pathways program. I have a professional background in economic development, small business support, and access to finance projects, both domestically and internationally. Our session today will consist of a 2-hour presentation, and again, please ask questions throughout the presentation using the chat function. We'll respond to them as we go along. Any questions that we don't get to today, we're happy to address through our no-cost one-on-one services or connect you with resources that can help. As I said before, we'll share a recording of this webinar and slides in a follow-up email. Now I'd like to pass things over to Jamie to introduce herself and tell us a bit about her background and start the presentation.
Awesome. Thanks, Allie. And good morning, everyone. Welcome to QuickBooks 101. I am a little background on me. My name is Jamie Dion. I am the owner of Balanced Bookkeeping. I'm based out of Charlottesville, Virginia, but work with clients remotely all over the US. In my past life, in my past career, I used to be a teacher. And so this keeps my teaching muscles nice and loose and warmed up. I do these webinars once a month with the SBDC. So I love this. My goal is always to help you to make QuickBooks, which seems like a foreign language, right? Turn it into something that's approachable and really move you all from using QuickBooks as a compliance tool to a business decision-making tool, right? I want to get you away from just filing those using QuickBooks to file taxes and moving it towards having it be more of an integral tool that you're using to make business decisions. So today, this webinar is highly hands-on. You're going to be doing while I'm doing. And I just put into the chat box a link to a QuickBooks test drive. This is available for you always. So you might want to bookmark it on your browser. And you are able to basically explore, make mistakes, experiment without the repercussions of messing up your QuickBooks file. So my recommendation for you is to use the test drive today so you can really see how it works. If you really want to stay in your own QuickBooks file, that is okay too. All right. I would recommend that you split your screen, have half of your screen be me so you can see what I'm doing in QuickBooks, and half of it be your QuickBooks file or the test drive so that you can kind of explore as we go along. I will be stopping. So the structure of this today is I will show you a feature of QuickBooks, and then I'm going to give you 3 to 5 minutes to explore with that feature, making mistakes, really trying to customize things that suit your needs. In those 3 minutes, that's also the time that I'm going to be answering questions. So if you have a question related to the topic that we're currently talking about, put that into the test drive and the chat box, sorry, and I'll answer it there. There'll also be about 30 minutes at the end for any other topics that we didn't touch upon today that you might have questions for. It'll be more of like an open Q&A. All right, so I'm going to get mine going. QuickBooks did update this test drive recently. If you happen to have trouble getting into it, go and log in under an incognito tab. I've run into it a couple of times. Hopefully you can just click right in, but if not, go under the incognito. All right, my last little bit of advice before we really get moving. Know that QuickBooks is a software that is intentionally designed for all businesses, right? If we think about QuickBooks' ideal client, it's really any small to medium-sized business is who their target market is. So you being one specific small to medium-sized business, it's up to you to take this software and customize it to reflect what you need as a business owner. Okay. And so we're going to talk a lot today about how to make those customizations so that what you're doing in this space reflects what you actually need to be doing, right? All right. So when we log in, this is the first screen that you will see. This is your dashboard. And as you can see, it's pretty busy, right? They're trying to have most every type of data that you might need to know when you log in, right? We can see here is the sales funnel. So these are all your invoices, right? So invoices that haven't been paid, that have been paid but not deposited, and then deposited, like closed out. You can see your bank accounts over here. You can see, and your your credit cards would be here as well. You can see a snapshot of your profit and loss. And on here, you can change the date to be whatever you want. Let's see what this month looks like so far, right? Expenses and so on. Now, you might say this is great, or you might say I don't need all of this, right? So if you don't need all of this, or you want to add other reports, up here where it says customize, this is where you can adjust anything that you might want to on this screen. So say you have, so if I add or remove widgets, you can see all of the different widgets that you could add. So if you wanted to be tracking your cash flow or your invoices more specifically, maybe your mileage, right? You can make this as complicated or as streamlined as you please. All right. I think that what I try to do is set this up so that I can just look at this little snapshot before moving more deeply into QuickBooks. If you are like, you know what, I don't care about this, then just disregard, right? Over here on the left-hand side, this toolbar has, this is how you will navigate through QuickBooks most times. So this plus create at the very top, this is how you will add new information into QuickBooks. So anything that you might need to add is going to be here. So invoicing, estimates, maybe a bill, right? Journal entries are here too. So any data that's not currently in QuickBooks and you need to add, you might go to this plus create. And then as we go down, the all apps has most everything else. So we're going to be hanging out today in this accounting tab. While QuickBooks does seem, right, very complicated, overwhelming, if you can get to this accounting tab for the basics of bookkeeping, this is where you want to be. And so we're going to be talking about bank transactions today. If you see this button right here, this is a bookmark. So I can click, this is a place that I'm going to often go. So I'm going to bookmark there. I'm going to bookmark reconcile because we're going to be having to reconcile every month. I'm going to bookmark my chart of accounts. All right, those are 3 places that we're going to be going today and that you'll go to often. So that would be a good idea to bookmark. And then if you look up here now in my bookmarks, I have those 3 options, those 3 buttons to get to where I need to go. Okay, if I go back down to my all apps, you can also see that you can get to the same places down here as you could up here, right? I have my expense, my bills. If I go here and my expense and my bills, it's here too. QuickBooks finds many different ways to get to the same place. So again, this is up to you what would be the easiest path for you to take, okay? You can see sales and get paid. This is where your invoices are. I'm going to bookmark that. Let's see what else. Payroll, if you're doing payroll. Time tracking is here, right? So there's so many different options. What's most important is that you think about what you need as a business and focus on that. Keep that tunnel vision for what you need out of your QuickBooks file. The same way that we are able to customize this dashboard down here, you can customize what is on your apps menu. So I might want to get rid of some of these, maybe it used to let me, I guess you can just move them. Huh, it used to, well, that's disappointing. Oh, here, sorry. Do you see these pins? So this is pinning them down here, right? So if I need accounting, expenses, maybe I want my team 1 pinned and my sales tax, and you can save it so that you can get directly to where you need to go down here. Does that make sense? All right, one more place I want to show you, and then you're going to have five minutes to explore all of these things, right? is over here, this gear icon in the upper right-hand corner. These are your business or your company level settings, okay? So this is like all of your back-end data. The most important place that I want you to explore today is this Accounts and Settings tab, okay? In here, this is asking you basically to set up your defaults for all of the other areas of QuickBooks. So you want to make sure that your company info is complete, because this will sync to your invoices, this will sync to your bill payments. You want to have everything here. You want to make sure you have your EIN in there, and then what email you would want QuickBooks to be emailing to tell you like confirmation of payroll, or if there's a sync error or anything like that. While the company tab is really important, honestly, you should be going through all of these to make sure that everything is set up appropriately. So especially sales, okay? This one is for this is helping you to customize all of your invoices. So if you are going to offer a discount, if that's something that you typically do, you can turn that on, and then it will show up on every invoice if you're going to put a discount on that invoice. Maybe you're going to accept deposits. You might want to turn that on. Maybe late fees, right? Are you going to request late fees if people pay late? You can do progress invoicing, which is really cool. So you can take a single estimate and have, so this is like for my contractors in the room, right? You send out a big old invoice, and then you have portions that are due at certain times, right? Maybe consultants do this too. Here, you can customize what the language is in the email that is sent out to your customers. So if you don't sound, if your brand doesn't sound like QuickBooks' brand, you can adjust this to reflect more of what your brand looks, sounds, and feels like. This one is really important too. So if you're sending out invoices in QuickBooks, you can set up these reminders, so automated, right? So that if they don't pay your invoice within 5 days of the invoice or 7 days, whatever, it will automatically send your customer a reminder. This invoice is overdue. Okay, so really, right now is a great time to go through all of this, turn things on, turn things off. A great way to customize to make your life a lot simpler and easier and more automated moving forward. Okay, so that was a handful of information. Here is what I'd like you to do right now, if I can get out of here. I would like you to go and customize your dashboard. Think about, come on, QuickBooks, think about your business and what is important for you to be seeing every time you log into QuickBooks. Should you be seeing your P&L? Do you want to see what your bank balances are? Maybe yes, maybe no. Then go ahead and bookmark some of the tabs that you think might be important for you. I'll tell you right now, bank transactions is important, reconciling is important, your chart of accounts is important. So go ahead and bookmark those. And then see some of the customizations that you can make. All right, so I'm going to give you about 3 to 5 minutes right now. Put the questions in the chat box. Oh no! What do you mean you can't see the test drive? Is this link not working? Do you see this? Let me see. Oh no, it's working for me. What do you all see?
I'm testing and it works for me.
Okay, thank you. All right, did everyone else get in? Everyone that said they didn't see it? Yes, you should be able to copy the link. Can you not? It looks like it's huh. This is new. Okay. Geraldine's in. Yeah, Leah had to use the incognito. Um, Good, Kimberly. Thank you. Phew. Sorry, everyone. I was doing my spiel. I didn't notice the chat box. All right, so go ahead and explore. If anyone is having continuous issue getting in, please let me know and we can try to finagle something. Joseph, are you good? Great. Awesome. So Crystal, you can't, I miss, so you can't delete these, right? But you can hide them. So that's what these buttons mean. So basically you can just undo them and then you'll only have these pins here. But they'll still be under all apps, unfortunately. And right now we're working in the most advanced one. So you might not even, like if you don't have payroll, if you're not doing payroll, your team one shouldn't be there. Same with if you're not tracking, if you don't pay for the time, that shouldn't be there. All right, we're gonna keep rolling. So this should be really simple for everyone because we bookmarked it, right? We're going to go to our bookmarks and we're going to go to our chart of accounts. If you didn't get to bookmarking your chart of accounts yet, you can either go to accounting in chart of accounts, or you can go to all apps, accounting, chart of accounts. All right. All right. So your chart of accounts is, I like to say, like the skeleton of your business finances. All right. We need everything in the right place. Otherwise, your data is going to get all messed up. And so when we think about your chart of accounts, you can probably see right now that Craig's landscaping and design has a ton of accounts in his chart of accounts. And what QuickBooks does when you sign up for QuickBooks, they're going to ask you several questions about your industry, how your business functions, and based on what you answer, they're going to add accounts to your chart of accounts. And so most likely the chart of accounts they gave you is way too big. All right. I say that for most small businesses, 50 to 70 accounts is sufficient. Okay. Unless you have a really complicated business, you have a lot of transactions going all over the place. Really, you shouldn't get above 100. And typically, QuickBooks gives you 150, even 200 I've seen when you first set it up. And so it's going to be up to you to customize this and activate a bunch of things so that this looks, sounds, and feels like your business. And so what I want at the end of the day is to be able to read down this list and get a grasp for how you use money in your business, how you generate revenue, how you spend your money, what assets you have, right? All of that. So let's go through a little bit of the chart of accounts. So our first accounts are called assets, right? Assets are the funds that you hold in your business that you can use to spend on expenses, right? So the obvious ones, right? Checking, savings, but that can also be your accounts receivable, right? This is money coming into your business for projects, services, goods that you've sold, right? Inventory is considered an asset, prepaid expenses, and then any vehicles that you own or machinery, a building could be, a land could be an asset, right? So anything that holds value in your business. Next, we have liabilities. So our liabilities are our bills, which is accounts payable, credit cards. You might owe sales tax, right? That's what these are. Maybe you have a loan or two that you owe that you need to pay back, right? Anything that you owe in your business. Next is equity. So this example is not great for Craig's landscaping and design, because what you really should have is partner investments, money that you've put into your business, right? Or owner investments. And then owner draw or partner draw or distribution, whatever language you want to use, which is money that's been taken out of your business, right? That you've taken and put into your personal pocket, right? Those are equity accounts. Then comes income. And again, Craig has kind of went a little crazy with all of his income accounts, right? What he's done well, right, is he's separated his revenue streams. So we can see, and we'll see when we run the reports later, that we can see that the design income is here. We can see that he has landscaping services. He has pest controls. Oh, geez, pest control services. And I do recommend, if you have several revenue streams, it would be very beneficial to track those separately, right? So for example, for my business, I like to track my recurring revenue separate from my one-time projects, separate from my advising, so that I can see trends year over year, month over month, whatever, right? By splitting that up too, then you're able to project costs a little bit easier, and make those financial decisions, which is what my end goal for you all is. All right. So there's our income, and then finally our expenses, right? And that's pretty obvious. Anything that you spend money on in order to keep your business running. Okay, so that's utilities, rent, software, licenses, labor, right? All of that. And so, like I mentioned, QuickBooks has created this all for us already. Your job now is to customize this to actually look like your business. So the first thing I want to show you is how to inactivate something. Now, know that if you inactivate it now and in 5 years, let's do a bookkeeper, right? Let's say that right now you're a solopreneur, you're doing everything on your own, you don't have a bookkeeper. We can inactivate this now and then reactivate it in a couple of years when you have a bookkeeper, right? So that we can still track that expense. So know that it's not finite, that if you get rid of something, it's not coming back. To inactivate it, it's as simple as clicking here, make it active, and make it active. All right. If I decide, you know what, that is what I want. I do, you know what, QuickBooks is crazy. I don't want to do my QuickBooks. I want to outsource it. To reactivate it, it's as simple as clicking here, settings. I'm going to include inactive. And then I can scroll down. You can see that it says that it's deleted. I can make it active again. And there you go. Okay, really simple. Say that I don't have a bookkeeper, but I have a consultant or a coach, and that would still fall under the legal and professional fees. You can also adjust the naming. So if I click edit, I can change this to coach and click save. And there we go. Okay, so it's very malleable. You're able to adjust this however you please. Okay. Something that I see often that does create a mess, and this is so please don't do this. So if I'm creating a new account, so let's say I'm going to do my owner investment because we don't have that one, right? So it's an owner investment. Oops. This account type matters, okay? Because we'll talk about this later with the reports, but different account types go on different reports. So you want to make sure that you don't put owner investment under income, right? That's not what that is. It's an equity account. Same, I've seen a lot of like expenses in banks that is incorrect as well, right? So make sure that you don't just click, 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 you get it in there. Make sure that you take the time to choose the correct account type. And the detail type matters a little bit less, okay? But it's still good to try to be as accurate as you can. And I'll click save. And now I have that as an equity account. Okay, so I want you to go through the chart of accounts. I want you to see if you can inactivate. Let's try 5 things. And then try to adjust a couple, change the naming to be something that reflects your business rather than Craig's. And then finally, see if you can create an account from scratch, right? Think about something that maybe is a little niche for your business that you spend money on or bring money in through, and see if you can create a brand new account. All right. And keep those questions coming, and I will answer them for you. I'll preface this with, this task is something that should be a task that you spend a lot of time on, right? That you give some focused attention to. So not the 3 to 5 minutes. So don't scramble to get your actual chart of accounts cleaned up right now. This is another great option to meet with like a partner or someone who's in a similar industry with you that you could kind of trade ideas with, or even an advisor. You could work with me. We could look at your chart of accounts and see what looks out of place, what needs to be adjusted. You really want to set this up well now so that everything else makes more sense moving forward. Okay. So the fee, Corey asked, what's the fee for using QuickBooks? So the basic option right now is $38 a month, which I know feels like a lift. They always offer promos where you can get like the first 3 or 6 months for half off or even free. But yeah, it's a little bit of a lift. I do say though, I think all small businesses can really start with the simple start, the basic model, the $38 one. The reasons that you would want to upgrade would be like if you had multiple locations or multiple branches of your business, which really doesn't come until you're a little bit bigger of a business. Corey, did you pop on late? Do you need the test drive? I'll put it in more time. There's the test drive link. No problem, Corey. I'm glad you're here. Yep, Victoria, you can still use the test drive. The test drive, this is for anyone to use. This is kind of like them trying to get you to use QuickBooks, right? They want you to see how it works. They want you to experiment. I honestly say with this test drive, put it as a bookmark and you can you can reference it in the future, like if you're trying to do something new in your QuickBooks file. Victoria, I see how you said it keeps asking me to log in. You need to log all the way out of your actual QuickBooks account. Otherwise, it will transition you over to like your actual QuickBooks. So log out of your business QuickBooks account and then click on the link, and that should solve it. or you could also go into a incognito again, and that should work. That should work fine. Selena asks, can multiple businesses use the same account, or should I have multiple QuickBooks? I get this question often, right? I get it. So the right answer is that you should have a different QuickBooks file for every EIN that you hold. That being said, I have seen several business owners who have successfully kept two plus businesses in one QuickBooks file. It requires that you are really neat and organized, right? Because at the end of the day, you're going to want to run two separate reports for your businesses. So if you're a novice in QuickBooks, I would definitely recommend having two separate QuickBooks files for the time being. And if you wanted to try having them together, you can make it work, but the right answer is separate for each business. All right, let's keep rolling. So now that we have our chart of accounts neat and tidy, right? It looks, sounds, and feels like our business. We can scroll down and understand what Craig is, how he's bringing money in, what his financial picture looks like, right? Now we want to link our banks. Okay, so we're going to click again on that bookmark. We bookmarked bank transactions. That's where we're going to go. And so now is a great time to be a small business owner when it comes to your record keeping, because no longer do we need to manually enter all of our income and our expenses anywhere, right? Because QuickBooks now has bank feed integrations that bring in all of our data from our bank feed, from our banks. So in order to do this, you will click link account. Maybe. Here we go. And it will, I guess it's not going to right now. Obviously, we're in the test drive, but it will ask you what your bank is. So if it's Truist, right, you'll type in Truist, and then it will ask you to put in your user ID and password for your Truist bank. And Truist and QuickBooks will communicate to one another in a one-way fashion. So your data goes from Truist to QuickBooks. It can't go from QuickBooks to Truist, right? It's a one-way feed. But it will start pulling in all of your data, all of your transactions into QuickBooks for you to categorize. If you are brand new, don't have a QuickBooks file, you're going to open one today, right? Make sure that you choose the start of your fiscal year. So it will ask you, when do you want to start syncing from? And so if your business runs on the calendar year, you'll choose January 1st, 2026, and it will pull in that data, for all of the data for you. Okay. You want to make sure that you only do your business, banks, and credit cards. Do not do your personal stuff. Okay. Even if you commingle, right? Sometimes you pay for things on your personal for your business. We're going to want to add that expense as a journal entry, not as, we're not going to connect the bank. All right. This is the nudge. This might be the nudge you need to make sure that you stop commingling, right? Because it's really simple to start categorizing transactions if you have everything in here as a business related expense. Okay. Once you're in here, you can see that you have the dates that things have come in. You have the bank description. So this will match what your statements say, and then the amount that's been received or spent. What you'll need to do is make sure, so you can click right into all of these. You'll need to make sure that you have a vendor name and an account name for every transaction. Okay, so this is A1 rental. So I'm going to add a new vendor, A1 rental. Okay, if you want to add all this additional information, you can. You don't have to. Save. And you can see QuickBooks AI is using this bank detail to help you to determine which account it should go to. And in this case, they did a good job, right? So they said that it should be equipment rental, which it is, right? So equipment rental is an expense. You can add a memo here. So if you want to have this really truly be how you're tracking everything that's going on in your business finances, right? You might write like Dion project. I don't know. And then click post. Okay, and now it's moved into our reporting. A tool that you can use that's really, really helpful. So something with record keeping that we want to keep track of or keep top of mind is we want to make sure that we are consistent with where we categorize things. So for example, QuickBooks, right? Your new QuickBooks subscription, that could fall under 2 different accounts within here, right? You could categorize it as dues and subscriptions. That would be absolutely fine. Or you could categorize it as software and apps. That is also absolutely fine, right? What's not fine is categorizing it as subscriptions in January, software in February and March, and subscriptions in April, right? You want to be consistent. And so to help you to be consistent, the first tool I'm going to show you is that once you add a vendor, okay, or a customer, this button pops up that says categorization history. If you click here, it's going to tell you where you've categorized something in the past. Okay. And so hopefully moving forward, if I click on A1 rental, every single transaction is going to fall under equipment rental. Okay. And then post. So what I'd like you to do is see if you can start categorizing some transactions. Here, one more thing, sorry. You might, let me see. Let's do this one. Okay. So Laura's lamination, right? This is office supplies. And I might not have office supplies yet, right? So you have 2 options at this point. You can add it directly here, plus new account, and it's going to pop up, maybe. Come on, QuickBooks. Here we go. It's going to pop up with that same account. To create a new account that we saw in the chart of accounts, right? So you can add new accounts directly from your bank feed. So that's an expense. And it's office. Okay. And I can click save. And now it's been added to my chart of accounts. Laura's lamination. If you think it's too overwhelming to add directly from your account, remember, you can just go back to your chart of accounts and add it here, right? Look and see where you're going to want it. Yep, it definitely needs to be an expense, right? And then you can come up and create it here. Okay. What I'd like you to do, see if you can categorize some of these expenses on your own. All right, you're definitely going to need to add some vendors, use that categorization history, if you will. And yeah, keep putting the questions in the chat box. Yes, of course. I think I answered your question, right? So as long as you sync your banks, right, up here, linking accounts, you do not need to manually enter all of your transactions. That sounds awful, right? If for some reason, so most all banks at this point have an integration with QuickBooks. If for some reason you don't have an integration, you can manually import your CSV file from your bank. By doing this, you would go to Settings, Import Data. You would say that you want to import bank data, import. You would choose the bank that it's coming, you want to add it to, and then you would choose the CSV file that you've downloaded. It will ask you a few more questions, and then it will show up right here with everything else. Okay, and then you'll still categorize. So Joseph, if you're in the test drive, remember this is just a fictitious account. So they're not going to like let you get into anything too deeply. If you want to see how payroll runs in QuickBooks, there are lots of videos that I would recommend you look at. But yeah, they're not gonna, they will be unlikely to. Let's see if mine works. So I guess mine does a little bit, right? Add an employee is how we're getting started. All right, but back to bank transactions. And Joseph, I am happy to talk to you more about how the payroll in QuickBooks works at the end, if you'd like to. Any other questions? So this is really where you're spending most of your time in QuickBooks, okay, is categorizing these transactions. If you make a mistake and you need to change it, the two fastest ways to find the transaction, if it was recent, you can click on this navigation tab and you'll see everything that was really recent. And then you can click in here. And then change whatever you need to change the memo, change the category. You can also click on where it says posted and undo. Undo. And then they'll be back here for you to categorize again. All right. So something that is very common, right, in most businesses is that we spend our money on the same things month over month, right? I pay lots of merchant fees every month. I pay lots of softwares every month. I pay my contractors, right? And so to make life more efficient, QuickBooks has created something called rules. Okay, so I'm going to, let me get this back in. So A1 rental post. So for A1 rental, every single time oh, I didn't want to do that. Sorry. Every time that I use A1 rental, it is for an equipment rental, right? That's pretty obvious. So instead of me having to put in the vendor, put in the account every single time I use them, instead I can create a rule. So if I click here, I'm going to go through all of these prompts. Okay, so I'm going to call it A1 rental. Oops. And I'm going to apply this transaction to transactions that are money out transactions. That's like expenses. I can say all bank accounts or just a certain bank account. I'm going to choose all. And it includes the following. The description has a rental in it, right? The bank description. And then I want them to code it as an expense. The category or the account is going to be equipment rental. And the payee is A1 rental, right? That all tracks. That's all correct. Now, this final prompt says, should we automatically confirm that the transactions that apply to this rule applies to? As in, should we, when they come into the bank feed, should we automatically move them into the reporting? I say no. Okay. My reasoning for turning this off is that I think it's really important that you have eyes on a rule, even if it's just for a second before you post it. I've seen people turn this on and the rule works incorrectly and they have hundreds of transactions that need to be corrected, right? So at least for the first month or so, turn this off and then you can always turn it back on later. You can turn it on later, okay? So let me click save. And now you can see what's happened, right? You can see these green rectangles that say rule. This means that a rule is attached to them, and then I can just click post, post, right? Super simple, super fast. Honestly, for my clients, I have rules for most everything that comes through their bank feed, okay? It saves me a ton of time. So go ahead and see if you can create some rules for several of Craig's transactions. All right. See and make sure that they work. Go back to your bank feed and see that they work. Keep the questions coming in. And I will answer the questions. Yep, in the bank feed. Yep. Tammy says, without eyes on it, QuickBooks tries to turn AEP into a personal expense. Yes. So that's another thing, Tammy. Thanks for bringing that up. So at the end of the day, remember that QuickBooks is just a software, right? They're using AI the best that they can, but if they, but they're going to suggest categories that might be really far off from what it actually is. So you always want like, I don't think we have any. Like let's look at Laura's, right? We can see Laura's. They wanted to put it under office expenses, which is fine, right? But it's not where I wanted to go. I wanted to go under office supplies. So don't just take whatever QuickBooks has done for surface value. I've seen some really weird things that QuickBooks is suggesting we categorize things for. All right, same with Amazon, right? This doesn't look like dues and subscriptions. This looks like an expense refund to me, right? This needs to go to whatever that $89 expense was for, the same category. Tammy said that she got a month free for calling and fussing about it. Yeah. So the new dashboard and the new QuickBooks system is relatively new, probably 6 months, I would say. So they still have some quirks. So you definitely want to make sure that you have a human looking over what's happening always. All right, see if you can create a couple rules. And you all are so quiet. Please ask questions. Okay. I'm going to keep moving. Let's do it. So the next place, so in a perfect, we're going to talk about workflow in a minute, but in a perfect system, right? I'm going to get all these in here. You would have categorized everything that's in your bank feeds by the end of each month. Okay. Let me just get some data in here for you so you can see. Match. So all of these matches, this is Craig. Craig has manually put in his bills and his payments match by going through the plus create. bills, maybe. QuickBooks is finicky today. I bet it's because it's April 14th and everybody is in QuickBooks right now. All right, that's enough. But in a perfect world, you are categorizing everything here. So this 15 will be a check mark. This 1 will be a check mark, meaning everything's been categorized for the month. All right. And we're going to talk about reconcile in just a bit. But first, I want to go over to our reports. So again, I'm going to reiterate what I said earlier, how QuickBooks is designed to be a software for all small and medium-sized businesses. And with that, they have created reports for all small and medium-sized businesses. And so again, in the reporting feature, in the reporting tab, we really want to try to keep that tunnel vision and focus on what's important to you. Okay. And so now would be an awesome time to go through all of these reports and see what's relevant to you. If it is relevant, you can do a star here and it will bring that report up to your favorites. So you can kind of just focus here. If it's something you don't need, get rid of it, right? That way you only have to focus on the top. I'm also going to show you some customer reports in just a moment. So let's first go to our profit and loss. So the profit and loss is the short-term current health of your business, right? Simply put, this is telling you whether or not you have made money in whatever report period you would prefer, all right? So for now, we'll do this year to date. Okay, it starts with all of your income accounts, all of the ways that you've generated money, right? Income. And then cost of goods sold, we skipped over this, but cost of goods sold, these are your expenses that are directly related to you providing your service. Okay, so things that you need in order to get your job done. Typically, this is for goods-based services, businesses, but some consultants and service-based businesses like to track the labor costs, the supplies and materials costs up here too. So best practice is keeping this as true expenses that you need in order to produce whatever you're producing. Okay. And then your operating expenses, right? How we're keeping the lights on at the end of the day. Finally, at the very, very bottom is our net income or our profit. We want this number to be in the positive, right? So Craig has a bit of a problem going on right now that we need to solve, right? We need to get him generating more revenue or decreasing his expenses. This number, though, once you are starting to make money, this is a really important number for you to identify in order to determine what your estimated tax payment should be. All right. So on average, and remember, this is average, this is not exact by any means, about 30% of your profit should be moved aside for tax purposes. All right. And so what I do for my clients is we take this total, we multiply by 0.3, which is 30%, and that amount we put into a high yield savings account every single month so that can earn a little interest before we have to send it over to the government. If you haven't done your estimated taxes, as due tomorrow is the quarter one ones. So you're in the right place to be able to identify that number. So other things to do though, right? So this is the basics, right? You can customize in so many different ways. One easy one that I like to do is up here, you can display columns by and do it by months. And check this out, right? We're able to see trends month over month regarding all of these different income and expense accounts. So for example, if I'm looking here at the pest control services, something's going on, right? So he charged $70 in January, and then looks like he had to refund in March. Maybe it wasn't successful. So I'm wondering, do we really need to even offer this service if we're not consistent or successful? I'd also want to know where these belong, right? These are more of the generic categories. What could we find them a home in more of the specific revenue generating? One other one that I really don't like, all right? Here's another example of QuickBooks giving you all of these different accounts in your chart of accounts that really aren't great. So miscellaneous, right? That is not specific by any means. I have no idea what he's spending this money on. These need to go into more of a more specific account. And so also, when you're filing your taxes, you don't have something called miscellaneous, right? So we want to make sure that we can match every expense on your profit and loss to your 1040 form if you're an LLC or your S Corp forms, so that you can maximize those deductions, right? So finding a new home for this would be really important, especially because that's what's putting him in the negative, right? If you create a report and you love it, okay, you're like, I want to run this always. Maybe I want to do all dates and have this go and be able to check this out every month. You can click save, and I can call it by month, okay, and save. Oops. And now next month, instead of me having to make those adjustments, if I click on my custom reports, I have this here, and next month it will include May as well. All right, I don't know if we have any nonprofits in attendance right now, but with the nonprofit reports, they are sometimes really customized, right? Having your report names here so you can just click, click, click and have them is really, really helpful. All right. The other report I want to show you today is the balance sheet. So if we think of your profit and loss as income and expenses, the balance sheet is taking care of everything else. So you can see that it starts with your assets, right? We can see his total assets is $21,000 between his checking, his receivables. This, to me, for the amount of revenue Craig is generating, this seems pretty high. So I'm wondering if he has a receivables problem. That might be another report we want to run, right? He also, this is another red flag to me. So undeposited funds, this means that this is money that has been received, right? So he's received either a check or cash or even an ACH transfer initiation, but it hasn't hit his bank account yet. So I would want to figure out where that $2,000 is and get that into the checking as soon as possible. All right, but anyways, assets. Then we have liabilities, so everything he owes. Right now he owes a total of $31,000, but you can see some pretty big loans, $29,000 worth of loans that we need to get paid eventually, right? And then your equity. So this is where your owner draw will be, the money that you take out of your business, and then your owner investment. If you ever paid for anything for your business from a personal account, that's where you would put that too. All right, and that gives you your whole complete financial picture. That's the basics, okay? You might, though, need a different report for certain reasons, right? For him, he has a lot of receivables, so I would want to be keeping track of this. This is the accounts receivable aging summary, so I can see how long invoices have been overdue, right? So I might need to call Red Rock Diner, Cookies by Kathy, Bill's Windsurf Shop to see what's going on. Honestly, this doesn't look too bad. It looks like most of them are current, right? Most of his invoices are current. All right, go ahead and explore these reports. Think, when you do this though, think of your business. Think of maybe some pain points that you're having. Think of maybe an area of your business that you don't really have a good grasp or understanding of, that you'd like to be able to see more clearly. Star the reports that are important, and maybe see if you can customize a report so that you could have a custom report. All right. And I'll answer the questions. Corey says, does the test drive actually work, or is it set up to help us get accustomed to the program? Yes, this is just, yeah, you can't use this. So you can't use this for your business. This is just for you to explore. When you log out of this test drive, all of your stuff, all of the adjustments you've made, they go away. So no, you can't use the test drive for your business. Sorry, wouldn't that be nice? Joseph, tell me more. Are you talking about QuickBooks as the software developer? If you're talking about QuickBooks, I would say it's very, very quick. Like, any issue that I've run into is resolved within an hour or two. And honestly, the only issues I've run into are all surrounding payroll. So I think that's not something that you would need to be concerned about, in my opinion. Yeah. Tammy says miscellaneous or other tells me I need to go find it and fix it. Yes. So avoid using miscellaneous, avoid using uncategorized expense or uncategorized asset or uncategorized income. Anything that says uncategorized, don't use it. And they make you keep it too. I don't know if you tried to get rid of that in your chart of accounts, but it seems silly to me. What else? Those are the two big ones. Stay away from miscellaneous, stay away from uncategorized. Oh, purchases. I see purchases sometimes too. Don't use purchases. So think about where your pain points are. Do you need some help with your accounts payable? Are you overdue on paying your bills, right? Maybe you want to keep track of, maybe you have a couple really big customers and you want to have their customer balance detail to review, especially if you're like a big contractor and you have a lot of invoices out to the same company, right? Lots of good stuff, but so overwhelming if you don't keep your tunnel vision. I have some clients that like the expense by vendor spend, to be able to see where you're spending all your money. Let me see if I can find it. You can also type it up here. Expenses by vendor summary is a good one. Where I can show you how much money you spent for each vendor to date. All right, we're going to put all this together now. Okay. So let's pretend that it is the beginning of the month, right? And your bank statement has just arrived either in the mail or in your inbox. That is the cue that you need to get into your QuickBooks. Okay, so you'll log in, and the first thing you need to do is categorize all of your expenses. So either go to your bookmarks or accounting, bank transactions. All right, and your job is to categorize all of these, right? Get them all in. I'm going to categorize this savings because the next step is to reconcile. Okay, so once all of these, you guys can see that green check mark now, right? That's what we want to see. That means everything's up to date. If you have a smaller bank, smaller banks sync less often for some reason than the bigger banks. So you might need to click this button, which will update all of your transactions. It will talk to all of your banks to pull in that data. Where you can see this 0 minutes, right? That means that this was synced 0 minutes ago, which again, this is a fictitious account, so obviously. But sometimes I see like 2 days or 16 hours. You want to make sure that you update that so you have the most up-to-date information. All right, once you have those green check marks, the next thing we're going to do is reconcile. So reconcile is just a fancy word for making sure that what is in QuickBooks matches what happened in your bank. All right. So what you're going to do, you have that bank statement in your hand. I'm going to do, so you can see all of your accounts. We have our credit cards here, your checking and your savings. We're going to reconcile the savings today to keep it simple. You're going to look at your statement. Your statement should have the beginning balance of $600 on it, or whatever this beginning balance says. If not, it might mean that you need to go get an older bank statement. Okay. Then you're going to put in your ending balance. This I'm just guessing right now. And then your ending date. So for checking and savings, it's always the last day of the month. Okay. And then you'll click Start Reconciling. And so what QuickBooks is doing is it's using AI to be able to match all of the transactions. So the savings is underwhelming, right? There's only one transaction. But for your checking, for your credit card, there'll be lots, right? And it's trying to get to this ending balance here. Okay. If you're off, it's going to tell us by how much, right? We're off by $600. So if you're off, what you're going to need to do is go through your bank statement and see, is there a transaction that's been duplicated? Is there a transaction that's missing? If there's a transaction that's duplicated, you can delete them, right? So I could click into here. I could do edit. I can do more, and then I can delete it. Okay. I'm not going to do that for now. If I need to add something, right, I'm missing a transaction for some reason, I would do create expense. And then you would put in your payee, what you purchased it for, right? Whatever it was. And then click Save and Close. You want to make sure that you have the correct payment account. So this is for savings, right? Not for checking. Make sure you have the right payment date, whatever's on your card. All right. I guess I can add something. Let me just do and save and close. All right. And now we can see that this is here. Now I'm still off, but what I'm going to do, just for now, this is not what you guys do. Okay. This is just to show you what we want to see. All right. What we want to see is this check mark and that it's $0 difference and finish now. 99% of the time, this will pop up automatically, right? As long as you're categorizing in your bank feed, you have everything categorized, that you'll most likely get this green check mark. If you don't, that's when you get your statement and go line by line by line. You can unclick these. Okay. And if you have your statement, here's my $200 deposit, here's my $12 fee, here's whatever's next. Okay. And then finish now. And then you're done. Okay. So you'll reconcile all of your accounts. Then you'll go to your reports. The most important report for you to be looking at on a monthly basis is this profit and loss. And I'm going to change my reporting period to last month. All right. Up here. So when you log into QuickBooks, right, it will ask you if you're on cash or accrual basis. Make sure you choose what you are, because this varies, right? If we look at, that's my net income for cash. And accrual, much different, right? So you want to make sure that you're doing whatever is reflective tax-wise. And then taking this bottom number, let's pretend it's in the positive, right? I'm going to take the $2,500, figure out what 30% is, and then move it to a tax savings account. And when I say tax savings, I just mean any savings account that you're not going to dip your toes in into, except for tax purposes, right? Having a designated tax account is a really good idea for business ownership. All right. And then hopefully you're going to really start analyzing these reports, right? It gets fun after a while, I promise, where you can start to determine trends. You can change your display columns by maybe weeks, right? A lot of different things to help you to be a better and more profitable business owner. All right, so that is the very basics of QuickBooks Online. You need to customize that chart of accounts. That's number one. Link your banks to QuickBooks. Categorize your transactions. Reconcile, and then review your reports. All right. By doing that, you can have up-to-date record keeping. We also offer a QuickBooks 201 that goes into more of the details surrounding QuickBooks. So we talk about receipts, we talk about invoicing, we talk about recurring transactions, we talk about journal entries. So if you need help with all of those, come join me again in another month or two for QuickBooks 201. All right, so that is all I have for you today. So we have plenty of time for questions. Let's get to it. Yeah, so please put all your questions. I hope this was helpful. Know that we're here to be an advising colleague if you need that. And yeah, let me read through these. Joseph says, can you give us a link to how to purchase this accounting software to install? Let me find it. Let's see. I think this is probably the best spot. So right now they have a promo for 50% off for 3 months for Simple Start. There's the pricing. Crystal says, is this all based on your bank? What about cash transactions? Great question, Crystal. Yes, so our bank feed, let me get here, right? Our bank feed, yes, this is only electronic transactions. So this is only related to your checking, your savings, your MasterCard. If you're using cash, are you using cash a lot in your business, Crystal? Are you still here, Crystal? Yes, you're here. So I'm just going to show you, irregardless if you are or not. So if you're using cash a lot, right? Like maybe you're a restaurant or retail space, right? You would want to add a chart of accounts called cash. All right. And you can add expenses and income through that cash register, right? Is really what we would call it. So I would do new cash bank cash on hand. Okay. Here's the deal though. You're going to need to reconcile this every month, just like you would an actual register, right? I see this all the time where this balance is crazy. It's like you have $10,000 in your cash drawer, right? That's not accurate. So you'll want to make sure that you're keeping track of that. If you're not using cash often, we're going to add a journal entry for that. So I would do plus create, journal entry. I'm not going to go into all the details of the journal entry, but I'll show you a quick snippet, okay? So you would do the journal date, the journal number. I like to do the date and then what it was for, Canva, okay? And you would do the account, the expense account, what you spent the money on, advertising, let's say 20 bucks. I would add a description, business cards, maybe. And then you would do, this is an owner investment, right? So you contributed the $20 of cash to your business outside of it. That is how you would be able to do this otherwise. So this is how I do it. If you're like a service-based business and you had one owner investment or you had one cash transaction, if you do it as a journal entry, it makes it a lot easier than having to reconcile that cash account every month. Yeah. Who just said that? I just saw someone say, yeah, Tammy. Tammy says that cash deposits in the bank feed make it easier. So yeah, that's what I recommend my clients do also, where they can deposit whatever cash sales they have into the bank feed, so then we can categorize it there. All right. Thank you, Matt. Does Intuit have cash flow model? Yeah, so they have cash flow reporting, and they're pushing for some. I wonder if we saw it on the, let's go home. They're pushing to have some more like interactive cash flow models on here. I don't think I saw any, did we? Let's see. But it's not great, Joseph, in my opinion. Let's see. Yeah, so it's on here somewhere. Where does it show us? Cash flow. So right here, you can see. So here's their cash flow showing you the money coming in, money coming out. And you can change the date. There's also a report that you can run. So there's another example, another model. So this is more of like the traditional cash flow model, where you can see your income, all of your liabilities, cash at end of period. Is that what you're thinking, Joseph? Or are you looking for more like interactive? Joseph says, Chase Bank has a system that can help clients generate invoices and send to the customer to pay. How does this affect the invoicing system in Intuit? So if you're going to be doing your invoicing outside of QuickBooks, then you just don't use the invoicing capabilities in it in QuickBooks, right? So when you got that deposited in QuickBooks, say it was from me, right? You would code it as Jamie, right? And then whatever the income was, but you wouldn't. A lot of these smaller, I know Chase is a big bank, but they likely don't integrate with the invoicing side of QuickBooks. Bigger POS systems like Square and Shopify, you can integrate. So that is a consideration. But I always say, right, you want to make sure that you're staying on top of these integrations. Otherwise, it makes a big, big mess. All right. Tammy says, is tracking equipment depreciation part of QuickBooks 201? So we talk about recurring transactions, Tammy, which is what I would recommend you do for that equipment depreciation. We talk about journal entries, which is what you would use to do it. So not specifically, but I show you the tools of how to do that. And Joseph, you're looking for more of a, tell me what you mean by professional. You're looking for like more of a intricate, more detailed. Any other questions? Rena, yes. I mean, really, that is the basics of it, right? At the end of the day, right? If we think about the bare bones, what you need in order to do your taxes, right? You need to make sure that you have a solid profit and loss and balance sheet. And by setting up your chart of accounts and categorizing those transactions and reconciling, that's all you need to be doing in order to be creating that. Again, in our next session, we're going to talk about like really using QuickBooks as that integral tool, right? Where you're able to do your invoicing, do your payables, kind of an all-in-one space. But this is all you need to be doing on a monthly basis to keep your books accurate and ready to go.
Just wanted to flag, Jamie, that I dropped the registration link for QuickBooks 201 on June 16th in the chat, as well as the link to all of the other or the schedule of other upcoming SBDC and Capital Pathways webinars.
Awesome. All right, everybody. I'll let you go if no other questions. Oh, so Joseph says, does Intuit follow GAAP or IFRS? They loosely follow GAAP, but it's up to you to be able to keeping track of anything. Joseph, what is your business? What is your industry? Okay. Got it. Of course, Robert. I'm looking it up, Joseph. I don't know if it is credited. Is it? It said no system can be GAAP compliant, which is what I was thinking. Yeah, so it's up to you, but the software is designed for you to be able to be GAAP compliant. Sounds like in your industry, it should be easy enough, Joseph. Yeah. Service-based industry, totally. Tammy says, I have been using supplies to organize the chemicals I use as part of my business. Should I have been using COGS? Yes, I would say yes, Tammy, right? Because you're using them to produce whatever you're doing. Like, are you giving a product to, car wash? Yeah, I would say still. I would put that under cost of goods sold. It's nice to have those costs of goods sold there so that you can really look at your profitability by project, right? So you can see your true costs. No stress though, Tammy. I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, for tax purposes, right, you're still getting that expense. So really, it's just helping you a lot with being able to see your profitability, your gross profit margin, if that makes sense. Like before all your other business expenses get thrown into the loop. Yep, Joseph says, in Virginia, there's no sales tax for services, but for physical product sales, how does that affect the software? Yep, so you can turn, let me get back in here. You can turn sales tax on and off for each of your products. We're going to talk about this again in 201, but I'll show you. So when you're creating invoices, you'll create products and services for those invoices. And you can see here, so here are Craig's, right? You have this column that says taxable or non-taxable. So for you, Joseph, all of yours would be non-taxable, right? However, if you sold like a book or I don't know, a pamphlet that you needed to collect and remit sales tax for, you would just click right here, sales tax, right? And you can edit it, turn it on and off. And then when you are sending your invoice, let's just look at one. You'll be able to clearly see if it's taxed or not. So oh, look at this. They're really complicating things for us here. But over here, this is a tax exempt client. You would be able to just check the box that says tax or no tax, and then you would see it down here, what the sales tax is. And then you can run the sales tax liability report to see your total tax for the month. But I'm assuming you're not doing sales tax at all, right? Any other questions? Of course.
Alrighty, if there are no other questions, then I think we will bring our time together to a close. Give it just one more minute for folks to get those last minute questions in. All right. So we do have one from Tammy.
Ooh, would the sales tax calculator work on vending machine products? Huh. I have no idea, Tammy. I have never run into that. How are you? So, can you tell me your workflow? Are you doing it backwards where you're seeing how much money is in the vending machine and then figuring out the sales tax from there? What are you currently doing? I'll say for me, what I would do is I would do a monthly journal entry, taking whatever that cash sales is and separating it into income and sales tax. Just one journal entry per month is what I would do, Tammy. But I wouldn't put it in that wouldn't warrant doing like an invoice or anything. You would just put it to sales tax payable, whatever the sales tax, the income under vending machine sales, and then that would debit the cash account. But happy to talk more about that whenever. Yeah. Of course.
Alrighty, I'm not seeing any further questions coming in. So for real this time, we are gonna bring, oh, Joseph, looks like you slipped in just under the wire.
You guys are funny. All right. Once the income flows in and the money hits the bank, journal entry can use to separate it. I wouldn't do a journal entry. This is what you can do. So if you're in your bank transactions and you have some income coming in, if you needed to separate it, right? Let's just pretend this is income. You can split the transaction to have the separate categories. So like if this is Tammy's, right? We can pretend this says vending machine, vending machine. This would be sales, right? And this would be sales tax. He doesn't have one, but this would be sales tax payable. And so 150 would be the actual sales and 50 would be the sales tax payable. Does that make sense? So pretend that says sales tax payable and then split. Yeah. Does that make sense? Sure. You're a tough sell, Joseph. Anything else? Of course. I hope this was helpful for everybody.
I'm going to close the questions there. Thank you, Jamie, for all of this excellent information and for untangling the confusion that can be QuickBooks.
I tried my best.
Thank you to all of our participants today for your excellent questions and for joining us. We hope to see you all in QuickBooks 201 in June and in some of our other webinars. And Jamie, again, thank you. We look forward to the next session of QuickBooks 101 and the following QuickBooks 201 session. If anyone is interested in getting started with Capital Pathways advising, or for working more specifically with Jamie, I've dropped my contact information in the chat and can do so again here quickly. Please feel free to reach out to me and we can get you scheduled for an intake call. Also, if we weren't able to get to any of your questions or you have any follow-up questions that you didn't think of that just pop into your brain in the middle of the night, please feel free to shoot us an email. And with that, I'll say thank you everyone for joining us, and we hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.